Hello, I'm Dennis with doityourselfdennis.com, and in this video I'm going to show you how to lay mosaic tile in a shower. A couple of things you're going to need to start with. You're going to need a trowel. I'm going to use a 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch notched trowel. You can also use for mosaics the 1/4 inch V shaped instead of square. You'll need tape measure, pencil. It's a good idea to have a little putty knife, and I'll show you why here in a few minutes. And then I always use a screwdriver. I have a little screwdriver on hand in case you have some of the mortar or the thin set come up through the crack of the tile. You can kind of scrape it out and get rid of it. You may or may not use spacers. Most of the time with mosaics they aren't very true, so they aren't exactly straight. So sometimes you'll have to kind of play with it a little bit. And a towel, you want to use keep a wet towel on hand because you're going to get mortar on or thin set on the tile itself. So you want to wipe it down with that to get the thin set off. You'll need a 5-gallon bucket. If you can find a deep one, it's better to get a deep one if you can, because if you mix up a 50-pound bag of thin set, it comes up pretty close. I mean, on this tall bucket, it comes up to about here. So you want to get a good bucket, and I guess that's about it. You'll need a mixer. Grab that mixer in there real quick. Okay. But you'll want to get a mixer to mix your thin set with, and knee pads, good thing to have. Something else is a chalk box. You want a chalk box. So let's get started. And one of the things you're going to I like to do is to lay my tile out dry, so that I kind of get an idea of exactly how I want to lay it out. Because you might have to cut off a little on one end, or even it up. So you start out by finding your center, and so we've got our center mark. I've already marked it there. And generally I'll start out laying the tile. I'll line my edge up with that line, and I'll lay it across and see how it works out. And then, so you can't fit, I'll go ahead and make my gap. And you can't fit another one in, so you're going to get a measurement. So it's about 9 inches on both sides. So the other way, and you can figure out, so if it's 9 inches, so that means you're going to be cutting your tile right across through here. So all this is basically going to be waste. So something else I do is I go ahead and I measure over 6 inches from that where I originally started out at. If we were at 21, okay, we're going to make it 27. So you make you a mark there, and then you line your tile up to it, then you lean on your next one. Go ahead and make your gap. Put one down here. And now get a measurement, and you're about 3 inches on that side and 3 inches on this side. So it really works out perfect. You have very little scrap doing it this way, because then you're going to cut this at 3 inches. So that means you're going to have this piece is 3 inches and this piece is 3 inches. Then you can cut this one at 3 inches. And so you get 4 pieces out of this that there's absolutely no waste at all. And in this particular job, the difference was, and I figured it up, if I did it the first way, I used 30 tile. If I did it the second way, I only used 26 tile. And I don't have any waste. So, or very little waste. So you want to keep that in mind. And then also, you want to take your tile and go ahead and run a line across to the other side. You can't see it because of the wall, but you'll go ahead and run this all the way to the other end and see where you fall down there, so that you know if you need to cut some of this off so that it's even, so you have the same amount from here to here, so that it breaks right and it looks like it's centered. So you'll want to do that, and once you get that all set up, you're going to want to chalk a line. And what I do is I've made my mark down here, so I'm gonna take my square, lay it up against the wall, just to bring my mark out a little further, so that I can get my chalk line on there. You want to come in here and help me chalk this real quick? I've already got a line down there. Okay, you're going to want to pull your line straight up. Make your line, and that's what you're going to start out with. You're going to start out with that line, and you'll do one side or the other. I'm going to be doing this side, and I'll show you how to do that when I actually get my thin set mixed up. So let me get my thin set mixed up, and then I'll be right back. Okay, a couple other things I forgot to tell you might be nice to have is a square and a small level or some kind of straight edge. Okay, so we've got our thin set mixed up. I'm just going to get you some out. Take. Come down with the flat side of the trowel. You're not going to want to cover up your line. You just go up to it. Now with something I want to point out with this square notch, using the mosaic, normally you would put your angle pretty high, you know, about like that. But using this square notched trowel, I'm going to not quite be up so high. And you'll have spots that it tears it away, so you just go back up to it. And you're ready to start laying your tile. So you're going to line it up on your line. And you're going to just kind of squish it, you know. You go to each one with each individual tile and just kind of shimmy it a little bit to get it to sit down. Make sure you're on your line good. And you'll see it squish. Okay, and you want to make sure your spacing's right. Like I say, you can use spacers, But generally on these mosaics, I just eyeball it. And what you can use your straight edge for, or a level, check to see how straight you are. To make sure your tile are all lining up good. Let's come out just a tad. That's better. Okay, remember I told you about the pieces that cut them in half. Just lay them down in there. And again, you just kind of rock it back and forth to get it to sit down in there. Check your spacing. I'm going to check your... Okay. And what I was talking about was like right here, the mortar has squished up in it a little bit. So I'll scrape that off, then I'll go over it with a wet rag. And I'm sorry? Yeah. And then what I'm going to use the putty knife for is I'm going to scrape this here out, because I don't have them cut yet. So I'm going to scrape that mortar out, and then I'll come back and put that in there with some of the waste that I have. And I'll show you how you do that when I get to that point. I mean, I guess you could have gone ahead and cut some, but I didn't. I didn't think about it. And they would be ready. Anyway, so that's about that. All right, so then you're going to lay your next one. Just work it down in it. Just a little bit. I've got some in here. I think I put the mortar under there. Probably should come out just a little further. You can almost hear them burp. And you just line it up with your line again still. Check all your gaps. See that the 1/4 inch V notch doesn't put quite as much thin set down. That's the advantage of it. That's why I was putting it at such a low angle. That's what leaves so much. But I think you got the idea. You just continue on, and then once I get done with this side, then I'll come back and I'll line it up on this side, and I'll show you how I do that when I get to that point. Okay, we've come up to the drain, so we've got to cut out for the drain. I tell you, this could not have worked out any better. I mean, these pieces come right up to it, just perfect. So what you're going to do is you need to figure out which ones you need to cut out. So we're going to cut this one out, and then we're going to cut this one across here. And then we need to cut just a little bit out of this one, all the way across. And then this one here. And I think that's it. That should be about it. And what we're going to do, we might need to trim a little bit off of this, but I'll go ahead and cut these out, and then we'll then I'll come back and check it, see how it is. But let me go ahead and, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the string on these, so that I just have to mess with these, and these outer ones can stay. So let me get those cut out, and I'll be right back with you. Okay, let me show you what I've done. I went ahead and cut this out of the tile, cut the pieces I thought I needed, and I went ahead and realigned it again how I want it to be, and I made my marks on here and over here. I want to go ahead and make our mark so that we know which to cut. This piece goes completely, and then we're going to cut this one down just a little bit. And I guess this one here is probably going to get cut too. So let me go ahead and cut that. This piece goes here. And we're going to cut just a little bit of this corner off. And a little more down there. Oops. And then, I guess it would be that one. So we'll go ahead and cut it off. And we can take this one and lay it up there. You probably need to notch out just a little bit of this. Just a 1/16 of an inch or so. So it mixes all the way around that. But and we'll just cut this with a wet saw, and that's about it. Okay, I've got all my lines drawn on these pieces, so we're ready to cut them. You're gonna just kind of follow your line. I don't know what else to tell you really. First piece, and here's our second piece. Something I might point out, when you get to the end of your cut, slow down a little bit, because sometimes it'll chip it out. tip on there. And we're just cutting a little corner off of this one. And that's about all there is to that. Generally, I like to just go ahead and dry them off. Just keep the towel on hand, dry towel. And that's that. So we're ready to go up and put them back in. Okay. All right, we've got our pieces cut, and I went ahead and scraped that up because it was starting to dry, and I buttered the back of the piece. So put our mortar down, wiggle it into it, make sure we're lined up on our line good, and we start putting our pieces in. This piece here went here. And you might want to, before you put your thin set down, you'll want to check to make sure everything's going to fit like it's supposed to fit. Let's see. So this one here goes here. I'll put a little butter on the back of that. It kind of got a little dry while I was messing with trying to cut them pieces. Just scrape it out and put some fresh in. And this piece was next. And this piece here goes here. See, the red piece was cut off. This one here. Oh, let's see, this one here. Short brown one here. And, let's see, this one here. And I'm just going like this. Look at that. Okay, make another full piece. Okay, you want to make sure your alignment's still good all the way across. Check it out here. Everything looks good there. This one come out just a tad. Okay. They all look pretty good. Like I say, you're not going to get it perfect because these aren't perfect. So just do the best you can. and it'll look fine once you get the grout in and everything. So that's it for cutting around the drain. I hope that helps. Okay, to put these small pieces in, all you do is you get a little bit of thin set on your trowel, and you're gonna just kind of put some mud on there or some thin set, and then rake back over it. And then you're just gonna set it down inside where it needs to go. Be sure and set it the right way. Just push it down in there and squish it in. Can you see that all right? Okay. So that's all there is to it. You want to be careful sitting. I'm sitting on this. We just got done laying this. So you want to be extra careful sitting on this to put these in. So that's all there is to that. You'd probably actually been better off to have done it at the beginning. But, you know, it's one of the things I didn't think about. So that's all there is. Thanks for watching, and check out my other videos at doityourselfdennis.com. If you got any questions, feel free to contact me. I'll answer them best I can.